Hey guys, we are in the basement. Today we're going to do a John's Arcade tech video. That is right, guys. Actually, we're going to work on a pinball machine today. Now, I haven't really done many pinball tech videos, but today we're going to fix a problem on one of my machines. Now, if you guys remember in the last few videos, actually the last video and a couple of videos before, we talked about my new Black Knight pinball machine. The last video we covered the gameplay, and then a few videos before that I showed it after I got the pinball machine, and then I showed how I fixed it. There was basically just a minor problem with the battery holder. It was missing a wire, and it was wasn't saving the settings. It was kind of stuck in the test mode. But anyway, I've been working on the game here and there, actually off camera. I got everything working. I fixed all the switches. I got the game working 100% actually before the last video, and it plays great. The game is awesome. However, I am having one minor issue, and it's with these displays down here. Now, this game has I guess 6 LED displays. It's got one for the 1 player, one for 2 players, one for 3 players, one for 4 players. Then it has these 2 little ones down here. The left one shows how many credits are on the machine, and then the right one shows how many balls you have in the game. Now I think it says 90 right now because that was the match. Because you know all pinball machines have a match feature, and if you match the numbers, you get a free game. So anyway, after the game is on for about an hour, or a half hour or so, these displays, these 2 only, will start kind of flickering, okay? And some of the digits will disappear, and it's kind of bothering me. It's not really affecting the game and how it plays or my ability to see my score, but it's just not right, and we're going to fix it in this video. Now, it's not doing it right now because I just turned the game on. It starts doing it after a half hour, maybe an hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back, actually, after a half hour, and I'm going to show you guys the problem, and I'm going to show you guys how I figured out where the problem is on the board. And while we're waiting for it to kind of wig out, because I know it will, we're going to go into the garage, and I'm going to show you guys a new project that I picked up, because guys, we're going to be doing a new restore series in the garage very soon. Come on, guys, it's March. It is March, the snow is going to be gone soon, and I'm getting ready to start working out there and restoring some new games, and I picked up a game yesterday at an auction, and I'm going to show you guys that right now. So why don't we go out to the garage, and I'll show you guys my new game that we'll be working on very soon, and we'll come back and work on the Black Knight. Alright guys, here it is. This is the game we're going to be restoring. It is a Taito US classic golf game. No, I kid. This game used to be a Bally Midway Journey. That's right, the band Journey from the 80s. You know, really iconic band from the 80s. Really cool game from the 80s. Really rare game. So I went to an auction yesterday. You guys remember that auction I went to a few weeks ago, or actually a few months ago? I filmed it. It was that auction in North Haven, Connecticut. Well, they had another one. And I went there yesterday, and I saw that this was on the game list, so I basically went down there to get this cabinet. And I was hoping I would get it really cheap, and I guess I kind of did. I was hoping to get it for $50. I thought nobody would want this, and I was actually hoping that nobody knew what it was. And so there was another guy there that bid against me, and I ended up getting it for $105. So not too bad. You know, this is a very classic game. Right now, though, it's not very classic, is it? It's pretty hideous. So this is going to be a very ambitious restore. I need basically everything for this game. Now, it has a lot going for it. One, the cabinet is actually very, very solid. Really no water damage, a little rough around the edges, not a lot of swelling really at all. It's a very nice dry cabinet, you know, that right there, no big deal. But the cabinet is nice and dry. You can see, you know, a lot of times with these particle board cabinets, the particle board will swell out past the T-molding, and that's a real, you know, that's an easy way to see if a cabinet had water. Just look at the T-molding and see if the particle board swelled out beyond it, and not the case here. So this is a very good candidate for a restore. I've always wanted a Journey, and you know what? We're gonna get one. And It's not going to be easy, though, because everything is missing. Now, we do have a couple things here, though. Well, we got the cabinet, right? We have the coin door, which is good. We have a monitor, which is great. But we're missing everything else. We're missing the monitor. This is the original control panel right here. However, there's been a giant hole drilled into this. Wow, the lighting is weird here. There's been a giant hole drilled here for a trackball, so I'm not going to be able to easily patch this hole and then put another hole inside of that for the joystick. So I actually already ordered a reproduction control panel from Takeman on Clove, so that's on the way. But that's really the only part I've gotten so far. Actually, a buddy of mine had a joystick for it too. This game uses the same joystick as like Burger Time and Pac-Man and really all the Tapper, all those Midway games basically use that same proprietary Midway joystick. So it's got the original kind of plum purpley sides here. They're okay. I can't live with this though. I'm gonna have to find some kind of vinyl, purpley vinyl, bluey purple vinyl, or paint this. I don't know. Maybe this will clean up. We'll see. You know what? A lot of this isn't too bad, actually. Maybe we'll keep this. We'll see once we get into it. Why don't we open up the cabinet here, and I'll show you guys what's going on inside. You know, this is very typical of these games. You know, these games just were not earning money, and the operators in the 80s, instead of going out and buying a whole new game, a whole new cabinet with a new monitor, they would just convert them to other games. And Taito and other companies would sell these kits. And they sell them a PCB and some artwork, and basically it was just designed to convert a game that wasn't earning into a new one that potentially could earn. So, all right, so let's see what's going on in here. All right, so we have an original Geo 7 monitor. It looks like it's all here. It's a little dusty, and maybe we'll blow that off later. It doesn't look too bad. You know what? We'll cap it. We'll rebuild it. I'm completely confident we're going to get that monitor working. You can see in the front here, though, it has zero burn. This is a very good monitor. So that's a huge bonus. And really, I paid $100 for this whole thing. This monitor, easily worth that. So if I were just to throw the cabinet away and just keep this monitor, I'd be okay. We have the Taito golf game PCB here. It's JAMA. Basically, this cabinet was converted to JAMA, which means that the original harness is all gone, which is a big problem because I need that. I'm going to need a whole lot of everything, really. So the original harness is gone. They JAMAtized it. You can see here they spliced into the original harness. So this whole thing's been hacked up, and really, I need to find myself an original MCR. This is an MCR game, which was a Bally Midway kind of hardware class. I forgot what it stands for. MCR. What is that? I used to know what that stands for, but it's a Midway class something. I don't know, but it's a hardware set that they used, and you know, there's a kind of MCR harness. I think I could probably use like a Tapper harness or something. I need to find a PCB. This game originally had a cassette player, okay? Because when you got to the end of the game, it would actually play music from Journey. I don't remember what song it played, but it would play, you know, it would just play one of their songs at the very end of the game, and it would play it on a cassette player, so it was pretty crazy. I know guys have figured out ways to plug an MP3 player into it because the cassette players are a little unreliable, so who knows. I'll be looking for all of this stuff. It does have the original transformer in the bottom, which is actually good, so that's one less thing for me to find. They did put a switching power supply in here, which of course powers that board. I haven't actually plugged this game in. Maybe we could do that now. Yeah, why not? Why don't we plug this in? I'm gonna have to find an extension cord though. I'm all kind of wintered up in here, so everything's away. Let me get this extension cord out here. This is the part of the video where we get the extension cord. All right. Jesus. Of course, it's all like tangled up in there. Let me see here. Let's think about this. Maybe I can pull the game a little closer to the outlet. Yeah, let me do that. Drag the game closer to the outlet here. So let's plug this in, and let's see what happens here. It's kind of cold out here, but whatever. All right, so nothing's happened so far. So let's pull this interlock switch. All right, here we go. Switching power supply is on. The monitor turned on, and it's kind of sunny here, but I can kind of see what's going on. Sounds like it's doing nothing. The monitor turned on though, so that's good. So, whatever. It's, you know, I'm not going to try to get this golf game working, but, you know, if this was another video, you know, we could check the voltages and see what's going on, but we're not going to do that. I just kind of wanted to see what happened. But the monitor turned on. We got neck blow. So, hey, you know what? The monitor might be working 100%. I don't know. But there's nothing on the screen here. Let me just turn the fly back up and see what happens here. So on the fly back right here, we've got screen is the bottom one here, and that's kind of the brightness. So let me just kind of turn that up and see if there's anything on the screen. No. It's so, oh, I can see white lines on there. So the monitor's working. So, you know what, I bet you the power supply is just bad, and that's all it is. But anyway, so yeah, we got this game. This is going to be a big project, guys. This is going to be a big, big project. The biggest part of this is going to be finding the PCB. Now, I believe I can, if I can find a tapper PCB, I can convert that to Journey, and that's kind of my plan right now. I have a friend that has a couple of tapper PCBs, so I'm going to talk to him about maybe getting both of those and see if I can make one working Journey PCB of the two. The other thing that's going to be really hard to find, and probably the hardest thing to find, is the harness. I think if I can find a tapper harness, or maybe some other MCR game like Satan's Hollow, I think I could probably make that work. So if you guys know of where any of these parts are, okay, because I need all of the artwork. I need the harness. Let's see, I need the tape player. I need the cassette board, interface board, the cassette player interface board. I need a PCB. If there's a working Journey PCB, I'd be interested in that. And I also need an MCR power supply. Actually, I know I have a spare in the basement, but what else do I need? I need the sound amp. I actually have one of those in the basement already, I think. So I'm going to need all those things, and this is going to be a really epic restore, and I actually cannot wait to work on this, but I might not be able to start this till later this year because I need to get all these parts. I guess I could start working on the cabinet. Rich at This Old Game actually has reproduced all of the artwork for this thing. So I'll be able to buy all of that. It's like $300. You get a new marquee, a new bezel, a new control panel overlay, and the side art for $290. Not cheap. It could be a lot worse though. And then after that, after the cabinet's looking good, then we got to make it work. So if you guys know of any of these parts, please, please, please let me know. So what do you guys think? Is this cool or what? I mean, it's Journey. Come on. So anyway, all right, let's go back down to the basement and let's see if that Black Knight is freaking out yet with those little displays. So, oh man, I can't wait to get out here and work on this. It's like 30 degrees right now, so. Oh man, it's March for God's sakes. Why is the snow still here? Ugh. Anyway, let's go in. Okay, let's go down and see if the display is freaking out yet. It's been about a half hour or so, and let's see if it's freaking out. And it's not. Okay, so it's still working. So I'm gonna leave it on a little bit longer, and I just want to show you guys the problem, and I want to show you how I identified where the problem was on the board. So let's keep it on. I'm gonna keep it on for a little bit longer, and I'll just keep checking it, and I'll be back when it's doing it. So all right, be right back. Okay, so we're back, and it's doing it. So right now it should say 00 and I think 70, but it doesn't. It doesn't say it at all. So. It dropped a couple digits there. It'll actually start flickering. See, I just shook the back box. Look at that. So something is loose, okay? So if we shake the game, see, look at that. See that? So something is loose back there, and we're gonna fix it. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna pull the game out, and because I wanna get into the back glass. So let me pull it out real quick, and we'll be right back. All right, I pulled the game out here. I'm gonna remove the back glass here real quick. So let's do that. And of course, I want to be careful here because this is glass, and this back glass is like gold. This is very expensive to replace if I break this. So, all right, let's pull the back glass off and put it to the side. I'm just leaning it up against the game here. So, okay, so I will tell you this, I did kind of diagnose this before, and the first thing that I did, let me turn the light on. The first thing I did is I reseated all of these connectors, because back here, this board right here, is kind of like the driver board or the logic board for the LEDs. All the LEDs plug into this with these ribbon cables, okay? And then it goes here to the back of the cabinet into these boards up here. And I don't know if I'll be able to show you guys this on the camera, but this is what I discovered. So let me see if we can kind of show this at the same time. So what I did, and you can see down there, here's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so we've got all these connectors back here, okay? All right, we've got all of these connectors up in here. See all these connectors? These are header pins and these displacement connectors, kind of like molex connectors, but these ones are called displacement because you shove the wire in there and it kind of displaces it. And then you have these header pins that are soldered onto the board. And so what I did is I basically just put my hand on the headers there and I just kind of wiggled them to see if I could make it clear up. And so what I'm gonna do is, I wanna show you guys the display while I wiggle it. And hopefully you guys can see this. Okay, so you see that display right there? So right now it's fine. So I'm gonna take my hand in here and I'm gonna wiggle this. See that? And if I wiggle this connector, I can make it freak out. So actually I fixed it by wiggling the connector, see that? So it is that connector, I know it is. And I want it to wig out right now. There, see it's freaking out? I'm just touching my hand on the connector.
Black light will flame you.
So what I'm going to do now is we're going to pull the boards out and we're going to reflow the headers on the header pins up there on that board. And I guarantee it's going to fix this issue. So right now it's totally cleared up because I put my hand on that connector and basically reseated it. And I know that's what it is. So it's these connectors here, and I know I've had you guys ask me to do videos showing how to reflow pins, and we're going to do that today in this video. And the hardest part, really the hardest part of all of this is going to be getting that damn board out of there because there's a million connectors. I don't think it's going to be that bad actually. So let me get my cordless screwdriver and we're going to yank the boards, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we need to get these boards out of the game. In order to do that, we basically are going to disconnect every single one of these connectors, unscrew it, and pull the two boards out. Now, there are two boards. There's this board here and that board there. This looks like a driver board. I think this is the CPU board. And these two boards are connected with this kind of molex setup here. Basically, the CPU board here has pins on it, and the driver board has a female molex. And so they're kind of, the pins are going through the molex here, and that's how the two boards are connected. So I'm going to basically pull both of the boards out at the same time. But again, the first thing we need to do is disconnect all of those connectors. Now, I want to make sure I put this game back together the same way we're taking it apart, because we do not want to plug the wrong connector into the wrong socket. And usually these connectors are kind of unique, and it's usually kind of hard to do that, but nonetheless I want to take photos before I start unplugging. That way I can check them as we go to put the game back together, because I do not want to mess this up. It's really important that you really document this. So I'm going to take some photos here of all the connectors, and I just really want to document what's going on here. So that's the whole top half here. Let me get this side. I really want to get all the colors in there. Okay, and then over here we got these guys. And you could also take like a Sharpie and mark these. I actually might do that too. Like down here I just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here I go 1, 2. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna get a Sharpie too, and I'm just gonna be a little extra cautious here. So let me go grab a Sharpie, I'll be right back. All right, I'm just gonna take my Sharpie here and just kind of mark on here. I mean, it's black on black, but you can still see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm gonna put on the board here that this is 4, and I'll know 1, 2, 3, 4. This one I don't think I'll be able to screw up, but we're just gonna put a line here so it matches that. I'm gonna put an arrow up here. 1, 2, arrow up. Okay. And then down here we've got these guys. So I'm gonna go 1. Can't write on that one, but I'm gonna 3, 4, and this is 5. And I'm just gonna put a 1 on the board here. Actually, I put that in the wrong spot. Put a 1 right there. Okay. And then we've got these guys here. And yeah, I'm using the same numbers, but these connectors are gonna be away from each other. So it's gonna be really hard to get the ones mixed up. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like a 6 I wrote on there. 5. Okay. And I could see here 1, 2. That one's obvious. That one's obvious. Okay, I think I'm ready to disconnect this. So what I'm gonna do here is basically just. Oh, I had the camera too high. You guys didn't see me label the bottom ones, but I did. Trust me. And you can't really see it because it is black on black, but you can see it if you look at it. All right, so I'm gonna go through here and basically just start disconnecting these connectors. And let's kind of get the camera in here so we can get the light kind of closer. Camera's kind of in my way, but all right, so we're just gonna basically just start disconnecting everything. And yes, the game is off. This is kind of critical. Before you do this, you got to make sure the game is off. I mean, if you want to be really safe, unplug it from the wall. And these connectors are going to be a bitch to get off. Okay, wow. Bending the pins. All right. So let's come in here. Let's get this guy. And this is the connector I think that's at fault. Okay. And then this is a pair of connectors here. All right, I think that'll be pretty obvious when we put it back together. Jesus Christ. Man, these guys are on here. Alright, so we got the top board all disconnected. So let's go ahead and start working on the bottom board here. So I'm just kind of looking here. We've got these 2 little connectors here. This one I labeled 1. I didn't realize that these 2 were separate, so I'm just gonna I'm looking back up here, sorry. So I didn't realize that these connectors on the far left were two little connectors. So it's 1, and then actually we'll call this 1.5. Maybe 1.5. And then 2, 3, 4. 1, and then this last one is 4. Okay, yeah, so that's labeled. This one was here. I know I'm not going to put it in backwards, but I'm just going to put an up arrow because it goes like that. And you can see it's actually kind of not possible to put this in the other way because there's a little plastic thing in here, and there's a pin missing right here. So the only way you could possibly put this on is this way. So they did do it, so you can't really screw it up, but I know that it's still possible. So, God, you didn't see that. So, all right, let's come down here and let's disconnect this board. Some horrible camera work, John. All right, so let's disconnect this guy. Jesus. All right. Okay, and I've got those labeled 1 and 2. And so now we're going to go for the bottom ones, which are right there. So what we're about to do here, we're going to reflow the header pins, and I've had people ask me to do a video about this. Not hard. This is the scariest part right here, disconnecting all these connectors, because there are a lot of them, and they're really on there. Okay, so we've got all of those bottom ones. So now let's go over here and get all the ones on that side. And just kind of wiggle them off. Not too bad. Okay. So we've got all the connectors off. The only thing that's connected still is the battery holder, and we'll kind of bring that with us to the bench. Actually, I could disconnect it because I did put a quick disconnect on here. So why don't we go ahead and just disconnect the battery holder. I'm gonna lose my settings if I do this. Whatever. Okay, so we disconnected the battery. Let me get my screwdriver. And just gonna basically unscrew the board now. And looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 screws.
On your mark.
And I do want to be careful here because, you know, guys, this is where all the money is. You know, if I break this, if I ruin this, it's not going to be cheap to replace, that's for sure. You know, everything can be fixed, but I'd rather not be in that situation. And I'm just going through, just removing all these Phillips screws. Looks like there's actually 6 screws on the bottom here. Just got to make sure these screws don't fall into the game. There's a big gaping hole below this. Okay. Okay, we should have 1 screw left over here. And the board's probably just gonna fall. It's not falling. All right, so now we are ready to pull the board out. And oh, here we go. Okay. All right, so there it is, and we're gonna take this to the bench and we're gonna reflow those headers. So let's go do that right now. So this thing is gold. I gotta be careful here. So let's go to the bench. Okay, so let me turn my soldering iron on. It's actually not on. And let's talk about what we're going to do while this is heating up. And why isn't it turning on? There we go. Okay, so we're going to need some solder, okay? We're going to need, wouldn't hurt to have our solder sucker handy. We probably won't need it though. And that's really about it. Okay, so what we're going to do, and I want to be careful here because you can see these 2 boards are joined by this molex here. And, oh, I can already maybe see there's some cold solder joints in here. You know, our problem might be here and here. So, we'll see. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically reflow the solder on all of these header pins, okay? Because these things just get stressed over time. People disconnect, reconnect those connectors if they work on the boards, and these solder joints basically can get cracked. And when they start heating up, which is I think what's happening, for whatever reason, it just kind of gets loose, maybe, you know, and that's when I get the flickering. So if we reflow this solder, I'm confident this is going to fix our issue. And if you look in here, I don't know, these solder joints all look really suspect. You can see that they're, I don't know if you guys can see that, but that looks cracked there. So just visually looking at it, a couple of these right away jump out at me as being bad. I don't know if you can see there's like a little circle inside. It's like, you know, you've got like the mound of solder, and then inside of that is a circle, like where it broke off or cracked. So it's almost like a loose connection. So we're gonna fix all of that. I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna reflow the headers on every single header on this. I'm gonna reflow all of them, every single one. So not hard to do, just a little time consuming. So let's kind of come over here and let's get to work. All right, so what we're going to do is turn our board over, and I want to be careful here because of how these two meet. I don't want to stress that too much. And I basically need to reflow all of these, all of these, all of these, all of those, all of those. And again, not hard, just a little time consuming. And the theory behind it is this: we're just going to heat it up and put new solder on there. You could desolder all of the headers, completely remove all of the old solder. I don't think it's really necessary. I think you just heat it up and then you add some new solder to it, and that's really all it's going to take here to reflow this. So okay, let me make sure my soldering iron is hot. And it is. Okay, let's clean the tip. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to heat up the old joint, and I'm just going to add a little bit of solder. Now I'm going to just keep my soldering iron here until the whole thing just kind of melts, and then just pull away. And that's really it. And you got to be careful when you do this too, because the pins sometimes will want to drop out. So I'm just going to heat this up and then add a little bit of solder, and that's it. That's all you got to do. So can you guys see that okay? See if we can get in a little bit closer. If you get in too close, sometimes I lose focus. And it's a little out of focus there. It's not too bad. All right, so let's try a couple more here. So we've done the first two, and I'm just coming in here and I'm heating up the header, and then I'm just adding a little bit, just a tiny bit of new solder. Heating this up and just adding a little bit of new solder, and I'm just going all the way down and just kind of freshening up all these connections. And so when you hear people say reflow the headers, this is what they're talking about. Just like that. Just heating up the old, and I'm adding a little bit of new. And you don't want to go crazy with the solder, because if you put too much on it, you know, there's a chance that you could bridge two connections. You know, I want to make sure my pins aren't dropping out either, and they're not. Okay. Okay, so that's that. So we've reflowed this header right here. Okay, when I say header, it's these pins. Okay, these pins are what they call, you know, header pins. Oh, we're kind of zoomed in too much. Okay. So these pins right here are what we call the header pins, right? And so we're basically reflowing the solder where they connect to the board. Okay, so you can see we've done that one. And looking at the rest of these, I think it's all original. I don't think this has ever been done before. It might have been done here and there, but really the whole thing looks kind of original overall. And so this connector here is all done. What do you think? Looks pretty good, right? And you just want to double check your work. Make sure you don't have a blob of solder kind of bridging two of the pins together. That would be really bad. You just got to be careful. Don't use a lot of solder. So why don't we go on to the next one, which is this header right here, okay? And it's this series of pins on the back. And we'll just do a few of these together. And then I'll just kind of go on and finish it by myself, and then we'll come back. But let's do the next one together. I'm trying to get it in focus here. Okay. Alright, so let's go ahead. Just heat up the old solder. And adding a little bit of new solder here will help the old solder kind of heat up too. This one's kind of being a little stubborn here. It's not a bad idea to use flux here. Okay. Maybe I should get my flux. I didn't like how that one flowed. You really should use flux. Let me get some. Okay, I went and got some flux here. This is from Radio Shack. It's a rosin soldering flux. And this kind of just helps the solder flow. It kind of cleans up everything. You know, the solder I'm using actually has a little bit of flux on the inside, and I always use a screwdriver to apply it. They do make brushes specifically for this job, and you don't want to put too much, but it's going to help the solder flow and just kind of help the heat evenly dispersed across those traces, and it's going to make our job easier. And I got lucky on the first set there. I really didn't feel like I needed it, but on this one here was being stubborn right away, and I didn't like it. There's not a lot of meat sticking out of the board on this side. You know, the pin, the header pin doesn't stick out too far on the other side here.
On your mark.
And I'm just kind of watching it, waiting for the solder to kind of suck down on it, and let me see if I can see what's going on there. I don't like how that one's working. I'm just gonna desolder it completely and just reflow it from scratch. So I'm taking my little solder pullet, and we're just kind of sucking the solder off this header. Take a look here. Huh. I don't like how that one is going at all. Okay. And I'm gonna totally try to get all this solder off of here. Look at that, I just bridged the solder joint. There we go. So that one's totally clean. Boy, this guy is stubborn. There we go. All right, so that's, both of those are pretty void of solder there, so I'm going to go ahead and just completely put new solder on these. All right. Let's get this one. And I'm just heating the part up. All right, let's take a peek at this. Those, I'm trying to see if those are supposed to be touching each other, and I think they are. I think that's the same trace. I think all of these are the same. Looks like some kind of ground. Maybe these last 4 pins are ground. I don't see. I'm kind of being cautious here because I don't want to screw this up. And these, I don't know if these pins are supposed to be bridged. I want to kind of inspect the trace real quick.
On your mark. Get set.
Yeah, they are. This is one trace. These 4 pins are all touching each other. I can see that now. Because what happened there was the solder was bridging across those 2 pins, and it was kind of troubling me. Because I couldn't really see the trace underneath the solder. But I could see now that this pin and this pin are the same. These are all probably ground pins here. Peek here. Yeah, they are. Okay, so the first 4 pins are all on the same plane. And looks like these last 3 too. Yeah, I know I'm redoing my work, but I'm just being cautious here, and I think you should too when you're doing work like this. Okay. Let me just kind of double check my work. That looks pretty okay. Make sure you guys can still see what's going on here. Alright. Come in here. This is kind of tough because there's not a lot of meat on these. There's not much of the pin sticking out on this side. Okay. And I'm basically just kind of waiting for the solder. Now these next two look really suspicious here. Okay. Alright. And I can see the next three are all on the same plane, so that's okay if these next three touch each other. Ideally, I don't want them to, but if they do, I could see that it's not going to matter. Wow. This is tough. Alright. I'm going to come in here with some of my flux. My wonderful flux screwdriver. Yes, I know they make a brush. You can buy a flux like paintbrush to put this on, but I always use this damn screwdriver. Alright. I'm going to go through here and just kind of add solder to all these and then desolder it and then reapply it. And I think this might be the way to go on some of these stubborn header pins. Okay. Okay. So now I can kind of really see what's going on underneath here. Alright. So, you know, if I remove the solder on every single one of these pins, it's going to take a long time. And it's really, I don't think it's necessary all the time. But if you're having kind of stubborn joints like I am here, I think it really is a good idea to remove the old solder so you can really see what you're doing and what's underneath there. Okay. And then here's the last one. And I really like to just put the side of my soldering iron touching the pin and then add solder to the other side and then just kind of lift off. So let's kind of double check our work here. And I would say all of that looks really good. And our pins are still where they need to be. And that looks good. So we've done that one now and this one. So let's go on to this one. And I'll do one more connector with you guys and then we'll come back. All right, so we're going to do this one right here. And, you know, I'm going to put some flux on here. This one's going to be a lot easier, I could tell, because the pins aren't sharing the same trace, which was what was happening over here. So they're just kind of jumbling themselves together. So this one, I'm just going to try to just reflow. Okay.
On your mark.
Yeah, this is going a lot easier.
Get set.
And I do think the flux is definitely necessary for this. This is really old solder. And I'm just kind of putting my tip of my soldering iron on the side of the pin. And I just kind of wait till it moves. The soldering iron kind of moves to the pin. It kind of hugs the pin as the solder melts. And then I'm just adding a hair more to the other side. Okay, so we just did that one. And that does look pretty good. So, okay, so we've done the first three. And I'm just going to continue on. I'm just going to go all the way around the board. I mean, it really is just rinse and repeat. And so you can see these two were pretty simple. This one gave me a little bit of trouble because of these ground traces, I think, because there was 3 that were sharing a common ground trace and then 4 over here. And they weren't kind of acting individually, which was kind of screwing it up. But the ones right here that are clearly on individual traces went really smooth. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to do basically every single one of these all the way around the board, around the entire circumference of the board. And then we're going to put it back on. So let me just keep going and we'll be right back. All right, the one thing I do want to point out here, as you're using the flux and after you solder these guys, you really should come in with a paper towel or a towel and just wipe all of the excess flux off here. You really don't want to leave it on the board because it is kind of acidic and you just really want to get it all off. And so you can see I've just did this one right here. And it looks pretty good. So we're about to go on to this guy right here. So, but yeah, just wipe that excess flux off. They do make like a cleaner, like a flux remover. I don't have that. I've never used it. So just wipe the excess off with a paper towel. That's been fine for me. So be right back. All right, I'm just kind of chugging along here. I've already done this entire board over here, that board. And now I'm working on this board. I do want to point out one thing here, and I've showed you guys this before, but you know, excuse me, if you solder, after you solder a joint, and if you're wondering yourself, did I do that right? Was that a good solder? You know, did I execute the solder properly, the soldering properly? You could test it with your multimeter, and you put it on continuity, okay? And mine has continuity beep, so that, you know, basically when 2 points are touching each other, you get a beeping sound, okay? And I have it on continuity right here. And so what I'm going to do, so like there was one joint over here, where was it that I wasn't sure. But what you can do, we'll just take this one right here. So like if I wasn't sure if this one right here was good, let me get it in the camera. If I wasn't sure that this solder job right here was good, I could take my meter and put it on the pin underneath, okay? Not the pin, not the... And then come up here, and I can see where this trace goes. It goes all the way back over here. Let's see, well, I could touch that, so that's continuity. And then, if I really want to check, though, follow the trace back to where it goes, right here. And now I'm touching the pin on the bottom, and then I'm touching the trace where it ultimately goes, and I got beep. So I know that was a good solder joint. No, don't touch the solder when you do that. You want to touch the pin here, okay, and then touch the destination. And if you get continuity, if you get a beep, then you know that was a good solder joint. So, all right, I'm going to keep going, and I will be right back. Okay, we are done. I reflowed all the headers. Now remember, I suspected I had only one bad header, which I think was this guy right here. Which one was it? Yeah, I thought it was this one. I thought the problem I had was with that header up there. But I still, since I took the board off, I reflowed the solder on everything. This is just kind of like preventative maintenance. I mean, yes, I thought the problem was right here, but I still reflowed all of these because if you're going to go through the trouble of removing the board from the game, just go ahead and reflow all of the headers. And also, when you do this, you do want to inspect these pins, okay? And some will say, you know, you should just replace all these header pins too. I'm not going to do that just yet. I mean, to me, you know, right now, I suspect it's just a cold solder joint, so I'm not going to go through the effort right now of replacing all of these header pins. I don't have any burnt headers at all. They all actually look really good. On these games, you will find burnt headers, and if that's the case, then you should replace them. That's not my case. These all look actually really clean, so I didn't replace any of the headers. Now, listen, I did not reflow the solder in this area, okay? And if I turn the board over, I can only get to the pins here, and I really think that I probably should reflow this header that's on this board and then the female sockets that are on this board. I'm wondering, actually, the female sockets that are on this board, can I reflow those? I'm not really sure. I'm wondering if I want to remove this board, break them apart right now, just to see what's going on. I think I'm gonna do it. So I'm just gonna carefully try to, maybe not. Hope I don't regret this. So I'm just gonna try to separate these two boards. Wow. Maybe not. I'm wondering if I can even reflow this. I can't reflow the solder on these, can I? On this molex connector here?
On your mark.
Yeah, maybe you can. You can, but really the stress is going to be on these pins, not on these connectors, I think. What should I do? I'm debating right now if I want to force this off of here, which is going to require a lot of strength to get this off. Whatever. Just get it off. Okay, there we go. So let's take a look at this. So these have, so you can see this is the female molex connector, and then these are the male pins that go into it. And I'm just kind of looking here if I need to reflow this, because the stress on these is internal. It's on these little blades that are in here that kind of meet the pins. So I'm just wondering if I need to even bother reflowing this. It all looks really good, actually. But I do definitely want to reflow the pins on these pins here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. So, all right, let me reflow the pins here on the large connector, on the large molex pins that connect to the driver board, and then I'll be right back. Okay, we are all done. I reflowed the solder on all these header pins here, so everything's been reflowed. I double, triple checked my work. I made sure that two adjacent pins weren't bridged together with solder, because that would be disastrous. You really want to double check your work here, because if you use too much solder, you can get little bridged pins, and that's just bad news. So I'm just kind of going through here and double checking my work, and it all looks pretty good. These ones here, where they have these giant, common pads or ground, or 5-volt areas, were really kind of tough to do. Took a lot of heat and solder to do those guys. But we got through it. Just kind of double checking. Another thing you can do too, assuming that these two pins that are next to each other are not in the same kind of circuit, you can do this to make sure they're not touching each other. If you're not sure, like if you're looking and you see a glob of solder in between and you're just not sure if the solder is touching, you could take your multimeter, put it on continuity, and go like this. And if you get a beep, those two pins right there are touching each other. But that's okay. That's how it's intended here. But if I look here, it looks, well, maybe this solder pad right here, maybe there's a little bit of too much solder on this one, and it kind of looks like it might be touching the one next to it. You could take your multimeter and touch the two, and if you get a beep, or actually if you don't get a beep, you know that they're not touching, okay? Because if they were touching, you'd get that sound right there. So, all right, so we got it all done. So let's put this back together. I'm going to carefully put the bottom board on the top board here. And this is a really stupid setup here. I don't know why they did this. I don't know if it was a space issue or what. But let's get this all lined up. Let me straighten these pins out, see if there's anything that's kind of bent. This one looks like it's a little bent. Just kind of using my hand here to straighten these pins out. And, if you really wanted to go nuts here and bulletproof this game, it is a good idea to replace all these pins. These don't look too bad, and I'm not having those kind of issues right now. So, maybe someday I'll go through it and replace all the header pins, male, female, between the driver and CPU board. Okay, so I got those lined up, and we're just going to kind of push this down. Okay, so we got our two boards connected together again, and we're ready to put this back in the game. So let me bring the tripod over to the game, and let's throw the board back in there. All right, let's get this board back in here and get this all reconnected. And the smaller board was on the top. And as you kind of bring it in here, you just got to make sure the connectors are all on top of the board, not behind the board. So let's just move all these connectors around. Okay. All right, so let's throw in top screws here. Okay, we got the one there. Let me get my screwdriver. It's right here. And there is two different types of screws. Looks like the longer screws go in the top here. Maybe not. Yeah, there are some shorter ones. So this is a long one. Just, is this screw right? Yes.
On your mark.
It's a little awkward. Ah, fudge. You know what I need? I need a magnetic bit for my cordless screwdriver. There we go. All right. So we got the top ones there. Okay, we got it all screwed down, so now we just got to redo our connections, and I guess I'll just start up here. Basically just the opposite of what we did when we removed everything. That screw looks a little bit loose. I didn't actually tighten these screws down all the way. Don't snug, I don't know, it just didn't feel right with them snugged all the way. It was like the board was kind of flexing, so I just kind of backed off a little bit so there's a little bit of play, so the boards just aren't so just kind of like kinked in there together. Okay, so I've got all of my connectors labeled here. Let's see, this one is 1. All right, so this is 2. Okay, that is it. We can just reconnect our battery, and These are just some quick disconnects I put on here. Okay. And we'll just put that right back there. Where I had it. Okay, so we're ready to turn the game on, and hopefully it works. So let's do this. And I'm gonna, what should I do right now? I want to play a game, you know, just make sure everything's working okay. So I need to slide the game back a little bit though. Let me do that real quick. All right, guys, this is it. We're ready to turn the game on here, and you know, if I screwed this up, that would be bad. So let's turn it on. All right. So far, so good. And we got nothing here. Great. We've got nothing on the displays. That's bad news. Let's take a peek. Oh, we missed. Look at this. I missed one up there. Look at that. I missed a connector. So I missed that connector in the top left. Boy, that was dumb. All right. Now let's try it. There we go. Okay. So you can see, pretty easy to make a mistake. Fortunately, that was a mistake that didn't mean much of anything. It was just I forgot to plug one of the connectors in. So let's start a game. Oh, it's in test right now because the battery was disconnected. So let's get out of test. And I'm just advancing the test mode over here with this button. And as I push this, it goes out of test. All right, so now we're still in test. We have to cycle through it one more time. All right, there we go. We're now in attract. That bottom left display looks good. Let's, it's not on free play anymore, so let's coin out. All right, so I just want to play a quick game just to see if everything's working. And looks like we're doing okay here. Okay, well, it appears everything's working. Just want to play a little bit more. Of course, I suck. But that bottom left display so far is good. It's not freaking out. Just having a really bad game here. Alright, well, it seems like the game's working. There we go.
One enemy cannot
Fight the Black Knight again. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I want to leave the game on now. Because remember that issue with that bottom left display kind of reared its head after a half hour or so. So I want to leave the game on. Let's see, what time is it? It is, well, it is about 7. Actually, I forgot to turn my clock back. Right? Because we sprung ahead. Oh, God, it's 8. It's 8:15. All right, so it's about 8:14 right now. So I'm going to come back at 8:45, and we're going to take a look at that display. I'm actually going to put the back glass on. So I'm going to let the game stay on for a half hour longer, and that'll be kind of a good test for that bottom left display. And I think that after a half hour, if that thing is still working fine, that I think we fixed it. So I'm going to throw the back glass on right now, and I'm going to slide the game back into place, and then we'll come back in a half hour and check on it to see if it's still working. And I'll probably play a couple games in between just to, again, to make sure all the functions of the playfield and the pop bumpers and the drop targets are still working, because we did mess with all the connections by reflowing the solder. So, all right, I will be back. I'll come back in a half hour, and we'll check how things are doing. All right, guys, we are back. It's actually been about an hour and a half here that the game has been on, and let's take a look, and it's still working. So I would say we definitely fixed it here, because I'm shaking the game right now, and nothing's flickering. So, you know, I've never been able to have the game on this long and not have it flicker. So I would say we definitely fixed it. It was definitely just a cold solder joint somewhere on that board, and it's all fixed. So guys, there you go. That's it, man. That's how you reflow headers on a PCB. You can apply this to arcade video games. You can apply it to pinball. You can apply it to all kinds of electronic stuff that uses connectors and header pins and all that, because that stuff, over time, you know, the heat, the stress, the movement, whatever, it just cracks those solder joints, and so we are all fixed. Anyway, there you guys have it. Hope you enjoyed it. So guys, listen, I release videos every Sunday and sometimes in between, and if you've never subscribed to my channel, this is a great time to do it. Go ahead and click that subscribe button. You'll get a little alert or something, I think, when I upload a video. And then also, check out my podcast. I have 2 of them. Arcade Outsiders, Tuesday night, 11 p.m. Eastern, live at allgames.com. Our website is arcadeoutsiders.com. If you guys like this kind of stuff, but a little crazier, because Arcade Outsiders, as I've learned now, the people that like John's Arcade may not necessarily like Arcade Outsiders, because Arcade Outsiders is a little crazy, a little immature. It's 3 guys getting together and just being silly. So, but we talk a lot about arcade games, so check it out, arcadeoutsiders.com. And on my other podcast that I've been doing now for almost 10 years, Video Game Outsiders, at videogameoutsiders.com. We do that podcast every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern at allgames.com. And again, our website is Video Game Outsiders. Other than that, guys, I think that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.